Hi, on this presentation, we will be going over domain and range from a functions graph. So we will be identifying domain and range from a functions graph. So how do we do that? First of all, the domain would include all the x values on the graph of the function. And the range would include all the y values on the graph of the function. So let's work on this example. Let's write the domain first. Now this graph, it has a segment that starts at x equals -6 and it ends at x equals -2. However, -6 is not included because we have an open circle, as you see over here. At -6, at x equals -6, we have an open circle. At x equals -2, we have a closed circle. And everything between -6 and -2 is on the graph, as you see. So the domain, since the domain would include all the x values on the graph, that means we're going to include every single number between -6 and -2, as you see, because the segments, it extends from -6 to -2, of course, excluding -6 and including -2. Because we are excluding -6, then we use parentheses to indicate that -6 is not included. And then -2, when we close the interval after -2 by a bracket, and that's because -2 is included. So whenever the number is included, we use bracket. Whenever the number is not included, we use parentheses. Then we have the other part of the graph, which is this curve. And it starts at 2, but it extends to infinity. As you see the graph going down at the same time moving to the right. So that means in regards to the x values will start at 2 and continues to infinity because the graph has no ending. So we're going to put union, meaning this interval plus another interval. We said it starts at 2, so bracket 2, because 2 is included because we have a closed circle in here. And then infinity parenthesis. Now, in regards to the range would include all the y values on the graph. So now we have to look at the y-axis and look at the graph and see which y values are included. Because the curve extends down to -infinity, that means the y values would start somewhere at -infinity. -infinity has no starting point, but we're going to indicate that, okay, well, the y values extends down to -infinity. So from -infinity up to what point? So if you follow the curve, it includes every point up to a bit above 6. A little bit above 6 because of this point over there. And we don't exactly know what that value is, but we can just approximate in this case. So we can do 6.2 or 6.1. The answer may differ from one person to another. But 6.2 is, if this could be a good approximation to the answer. And then, we need bracket in here, not parentheses. Okay, bracket. So let's use same color here. So bracket because 6.2 is included. Now, I did not pay attention to this segment when I wrote the range because every y coordinate on this segment is included in that curve already. So we don't have to rewrite the same thing. All right, let's do the example, the second example. start with the domain. As you see here, we have this segment, and then this one, and this one is a curve, not a segment. So the first segment starts at, looks like this would be -7. -7 included? Yes, because we have a closed circle at -7. Then it ends at -2, -3. Not included because we got an open circle. So comma -3, not included, so you got to use parentheses. Union, let's take care of the next segment. It starts at 0, included, so you got to use bracket 0. And it ends at, looks like 6, comma 6. But parentheses because we got an open circle at x equals 6. Over here, x equals 6, we got an open circle. Starts at 0, ends at 6. So the third one, it starts at 7, so we're going to put union, parentheses 7. The reason I'm using parentheses is because I have an open circle in there. That's why I'm using parentheses at 7. Where does it go? If you follow the curve is going to down to -infinity and to the right to +infinity. So 7, comma, +infinity, parentheses. Now, in regards to the range, again, the range will include all the y values on the graph. So it starts from -infinity again because the curve extends down to -infinity. So it starts at -infinity and it goes up to -4 as you see on this curve. But there is this segment that will take on. So it means -4 is included. It is not included in here, but it is included in this segment. So therefore, -4, we need to include it. And anything above to -4, anything above -4 up to 4. So it starts from -infinity, 4, and then anything above 4, because these segments include all these points, up to 4 not included. So we're going to do 4 parentheses. Now, union, the last piece, it's a horizontal segment. And because it is horizontal, then it includes only one y value, which is 6. Any point you pick on this segment, its y coordinate is 6. Doesn't matter, any point. Any point on the segment. So 6 everywhere. So it means including 6 because it's only one value. So we don't use parentheses and bracket. We're going to use braces. So braces 6 and close braces. So that's the range. Let's do the next two examples. So the next two examples, we have a curve and we have the function expression for this curve. It looks like if we read the domain through the graph, we can see that the curve extends to -infinity over here. So we know it starts from -infinity, comma, but what is the end? According to what I see, the curve approaches 0, as you see. The further up the curve goes, the closer it gets to 0. But 0 not included. Well, I can also confirm that from the function expression. If I find the domain of this function, the 0 should not be included in the domain because we cannot divide by 0. Because if x equals 0, then it's going to be 10 over 0, which is undefined, or -10 over 0, which is undefined. So therefore, the 0 is not included, and this confirms that the curve actually approaches 0, but it will never it will never equal 0. So meaning the x coordinate of any point on this curve will never equal 0. Now there is the other part of this curve. There is this part over here, and we could see that we have the same behavior. We see that the curve, the green one now, it approaches 0, but it will never touches the y-axis. It means the x coordinate on any point on the curve would not be 0. Now it extends to positive infinity as you see. So it's 0 comma infinity parenthesis. Now for the range will go from negative infinity, because you see the curve here, it goes down to negative infinity. So negative infinity, and then it, as you see, the curve approaches y equals 0. So, and then it will never equal y equals 0. It just approaches y equals 0. As you see, it is approaching the x-axis. Then the other piece of the graph, it starts from 0 and it goes up to infinity. So union 0 comma infinity, and it's the same thing with the curve below. The curve above does not touch the x-axis, so it means 0 is not in the range. Next curve, which is the last one, the domain goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. Positive infinity. Why? As you see, the curve extends down at the same time to the left. Where to the left? To negative infinity. And then it extends up at the same time to the right, so it extends to positive infinity. So negative, positive infinity. In regards to the range, while obviously the curve, as you see, goes down from negative infinity up to positive infinity. So it includes all the possible y values. So negative infinity, positive infinity. Thank you for watching.